right, let's get outside. And boom. Hello, one, and welcome. Actually, let's start properly, all right? Click, click, click. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fuschel here in Austria. I'm here for a week, and this is my beautiful hotel here at Hotel Jakob or Hotel Jacob here, and to show you the scenery here of the Austrian countryside. It is beautiful here. You may not be able to hear it that well, but there is a creek that's running all along behind the hotel, and it makes its way all the way down to the beautiful lake over there. And I am here for a week to shoot some content with Koof. This is my rope shop. I still have some at Revolver, but sold out everywhere else. Camera West had some, Leica Store, San Francisco had some, the official website at Koof had some, but all gone. And so I'm here to make version 2 of the strap, but as well as to shoot some video content with them. Go check out Koof's YouTube channel. I did like 5 tips for beginner photographers, I think it's what it's called. And let me know if you like those type of videos. We'll make more of those, and I can make more of those on my channel. But I thought while I'm here for a week, right now it's the weekend, and so I'm just enjoying my time, chillaxing. But of course, I feel compelled to make video content. And so I thought I would do a vlog series. I've got a lot of things kind of running around in my head. And since I have this beautiful balcony here, you can just see, I had this the last couple times I've been here. So I asked specifically for this room and for this view so that, on rainy days, the weather is kind of okay. I can sort of sit here. I have a chair here. I can sit down and do some video content. And for this first vlog, I thought I wanted to talk a little bit about AI and the idea and this fear, I guess, of a lot of people in photography, but as well as in other maybe artistic fields, if AI will take over. And it kind of coincides with a lot of the other things that have kind of been in my head for, I would say, even for decades. The idea of automation in photography, that camera manufacturers have been pushing for. Everything is easier. And that in itself is not a bad thing. But when that becomes the primary selling point of your camera, that, hey, you don't have to think, we can put film in automatically. Everything is auto for you. You don't have to it's called autofocus. You don't need to focus. You don't need to set your ISO. You don't need to do anything. The camera is smart enough that it can do everything for you. In one sense, it allowed photography into the hands of people that maybe wouldn't have taken photos. And we're talking like 1960s and 70s and 80s where, it was expensive to buy roll film and get it developed. And so if half your images were ruined for technical reasons, I understand why manufacturers wanted to make things easier for people. Because, you want great family pictures on vacation and special occasions and stuff like that. But when that becomes the only reason why you buy something, is that every generation is technically better. And this is not just in photography, it's videography, in any kind of tech, but as well as in things like watches, right? And a lot of it was, in the 60s and 70s, 80s, it was coming out of Japan. And because of the focus on advanced technology, other countries like Switzerland, like Germany, like France, England, that focus more on, of course, technology and innovation, but as well as in quality of build, style, those kind of things. A lot of those things disappeared because people are like, no, I just want a watch that works. I don't care how well it's made or the quality of the design. I want to know the time, and I want it as accurate as possible. Just thousands of European watch brands just disappeared. It felt overnight. And the rise of the Japanese watchmaking industry. And the same thing happened with photography. Leica is the last major European camera manufacturer to exist that is still independently Europe. Hasselblad is not owned by DJI. There are other smaller brands that exist, but in terms of like the major camera manufacturers, Leica is the last one left. And the rest are all pretty much Japanese and some Korean and Chinese brands out there that are making, like for instance, DJI right now, I'm using the Action 4. And I've had this idea in my head about AI, and we'll probably do more videos on this. I'm sure I can have a guest and we could talk about this for hours of not just my perspective, but the perspective of other content creators, photographers, artists, even like sociologists and technologists, and what they think, what the future of AI and automation will play. But I was just watching a little video on Simon Sinek. Now, those of you who don't know him, he's kind of like a motivational speaker, kind of, but he also gets hired by big companies to help solve kind of like people problems within organizations. And what he had said recently was that as automation and mechanics, he calls it machines, as machine value drops, right? Because as things are being made and mass produced quickly, the value of things that are made by machines are going down. They're worth less through mass production and industrialization. Then these companies are just massive, massive companies. And that includes like software as well. So that machine produced things are getting less in value. They're getting cheaper, but also it's conversely becoming less valuable because it's getting cheaper, if that makes sense. While things that are human-made, man-made, those things, the value is going up. And he used an example of a cup, like a coffee mug that's mass-produced in a factory. It's technically perfect, and yet the value is quite low, right? Including to the person. But something that's handmade, like a Japanese ceramic, with the kind of like that wabi-sabi, nothing is perfect. You can tell that nothing is perfectly symmetrical, hand glazed, but it has this human touch. Like you can tell a human made this. That value is high. So you will pay, 5 to 10 times more for something handmade versus machine made, because as a human, we look at something that is human made and there's an element of humanity in it. There's an element of a human touch. And that's what people are kind of starving for in a world where everything is automated, everything is computerized, everything is mass produced, that we want something. And that's why I think a lot of people customize things that are mass produced, including cameras. Like I wouldn't call what they do mass production, but it still is serial production. There's an assembly line. There's a way of making it faster. The old Leicas, prior to, let's say, up to the M5, were, I think, called like fit and finish or something like that, where one person made it from start to finish, pretty much at a workstation. And it took a lot more time. Parts were made in a way where they could be hand adjusted. And so each Leica, the early Leicas, felt different. And this it would go the same with Nikon and Canon, as things were hand produced. But as we automated everything, machined everything, everything got more perfect. And as it got more perfect, it became more stale. And so that's the problem I've always had with modern digital photography, that things have gotten so good now. Like everything's gotten sharper, the dynamic range is so good. You can shoot in the middle of the day and make it look like night, or you can shoot in the middle of the night and make it look like in the middle of the day. And for some people, this is progress. Now, from a technical perspective, it is progress. But in the end, if what we use these tools for is to create photography, to create art, to tell a story, I think it's neither good or bad, depending on how the user uses it. But for me, it's bad. I don't want perfection. I don't want that perfectly symmetrical mug that is now serially produced and each one is identical. Photography becomes stale. And I think with AI, that's the next step, right? As lenses get sharper, autofocus gets better. It'll be a point where you don't even need to autofocus. Everything will always be in focus. Everything will always be sharp. Every lens will always be perfect. And you make 10,000 lenses and they all look identical. Where a manufacturer like Leica, a lot of it is still human produced. A lot of it is still, hand polished. And especially when you buy the older, that's why I like older Leica lenses. And that's why Leica still produces some of their vintage classic lenses that are pre-aspherical. And you can see all the, if you want to call them optical flaws, but I call it character. It has character when you can take two of the same lenses and they're not identical. Like some people want that everything is identical. I don't. I like that my 28 Summicron looks different from another Summicron. And I've played with some of my Leica nerd buddies, from Gadgen to Jason Roman. And even when I handed my 28 Summicron at one time, Roman's like, hey, Take, like it feels different. And he shot it and he's like, I could tell it looks different. And to me, that's a good thing. We don't want everything to be the same. I mean, that's what makes all of us human. Even twins, although genetically identical, still there's, those that know them and love them can tell them apart many times or most of the time because there's still a slight difference. And that's what makes all of us human. And that's what makes derivative photography replaceable. So yes, AI will, like, think about all the photos of products on Amazon or any kind of a catalog type work. A lot of that will be just replaced by AI. Even to this point, you don't need a photographer to take product photos because it's so easy now with modern technology to put something in a big white box, drop it in, take some photos or videos, and then you could do like a 3D stitch or something. I mean, I don't know how all that stuff works, but you don't need a photographer. In the old days, you needed a professional to do product photography. And before that, it was all hand illustrations. So you ever see those old Sears catalogs? It was all hand illustrated. It was a craft. And I was in the sign industry, a decade ago, and we had vinyl signs, or you can get hand lettering. And the owners still did hand lettering because they were taught by their father, who learned the old school way of hand lettering. And there are some businesses like soda shops and maybe barber shops that still will hire someone to hand letter the sign, even though it's technically less perfect than a vinyl cut sign. People know, like, you can go up to it and like, oh, this was hand lettered. I can tell because the kerning is slightly off. It's not like technically perfect, but that's what makes it perfect. And I think that's the same with when it comes to on the technology side of photography, when not every lens is perfect because it's not just like molded aspherical lenses. Basically, it's like glass and plastic being poured into mold, and so every aspherical element is identical. Where Leica, there's still hand polishing involved in certain stages of the lens and mostly hand constructed. And so there's variances between these lenses, and the older you go with older lenses, the more variation you get. And for some people, that's a bad thing, but that's like wabi-sabi, right? The idea of impermanence, things are aging. And even black paint Leicas, it was a mistake. Black chrome lasts much longer, and it replaced black paint because photographers are complaining, specifically pros, that, hey, I paid so much for this camera, why is the paint coming off? And so black paint solved that problem. Black chrome solved that problem, but in the end, now people want black paint. People want impermanence. People want wabi-sabi. They want to see something age because we age, right? One person, a friend of mine, said in Hong Kong, he likes film because he said film ages with me, right? Where a digital file doesn't age. It's technically perfect, and that's what makes it imperfect. So AI will replace certain types of jobs where, for instance, catalog work, right? Like Amazon photos of products. Nobody cares about it because the end product isn't the photo of the product, but it's the actual product itself. So the photo of it is secondary. But in other things like wedding photography, the end product is the moment. Like, imagine you can scan the bride, you can scan the groom, you can scan the audience and scan the venue, and then artificially create the entire wedding and make these AI generated wedding photos. Would anyone care about those? I mean, the novelty might be there initially, but I think over time, if this exists or if this happens, people will be like, you know what, actually, I just want my wedding shot, even if it's not technically perfect and maybe not every shot is perfect. That was the real moment, and people want reality. And so going all the way back to Simon Sinek, he said, as things made by machines, value goes down. Things that are human made will go up. And I think human made things, including photography, the value will go up in time. We're already seeing AI YouTube videos, and there's just no soul to them. Like, imagine Casey Neistat did his entire vlog. Like, imagine he was just a character, and every interaction with every person was just all made up via AI. Like, who would watch that vlog? That's just horrible. And so the more that you put into your photography and the more human your photography is. So when I do, like, one of the two things I've been doing, specifically I'll talk about my selfies series. Are they bangers? Not necessarily, but these are moments with people that I cherish. And these selfies are an expression of the time that I spent with these people. And sure, I can do artistic versions of selfies, but in the end, I'm shooting for myself. I don't really care what anybody else thinks. And so that type of photography, documentary, editorial, storytelling, like telling your own story and the stories of others, those things won't be taken over by AI. And so if you are in the field where in time, like for instance, catalog work, I mean, I think that happened a long time ago, and AI is taking over, then find some other way of adjusting. Like imagine if you believe that real photography is film photography and then everything went digital. If your focus is on the technical part of photography and the physical medium, then you become antiquated. Now, obviously, I love film photography and I want it to exist forever because of the tactility and the humanness of it. If you just say like, well, I'm going to do everything on film, some people will survive, but the majority of film photography product photographers, it doesn't exist anymore, or pretty much doesn't exist, other than maybe at the top 1% of things. We need to evolve with technology, but at the same time, remain human and do things from the heart and from our perspective. And I think I'm gonna focus more and more on that moving forward. And I have, right? My shoes and cameras, my lunch with cameras. Even if AI can reproduce these things better than me, these are real moments that I'm with a certain person eating a certain dish, with a certain review camera that I have, with a certain strap. AI can reproduce those things, but those aren't real moments. And so it doesn't mean anything to me, and I don't think it'll mean anything to you. And so as I continue to produce content that's based on me and what I see and my story, the better the photos are. And so let me know down below if you want to continue this conversation with me or have another guest. Again, I'm just enjoying this beautiful scenery here up at Lake Fuschia here in Austria, on the balcony at Hotel Jakob. And this is my Leica M10R with the 21 Super Angulon. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, right? Talk to you soon.